everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's been a couple of months since my last video. Naturally, I'm popping back on here to say, hey, how's it going? And also just give you a bit of an update about things that have been happening to me outside of the online world. So, as you can see, I am wearing, maybe you can kind of see it, I'm wearing my Colorado shirt that I got down in Breckenridge in June. And my hair is still wet from my shower, so I don't look 100% camera ready, but I feel like talking to you guys about a couple of things, so we're just going to disregard my appearance for now. So the last time I was on here, I think I did a kind of a fall book haul type of thing, and I was kind of showing you guys some of the books that I had bought recently that I was planning to read over the fall and holidays, and I'm probably going to touch on that a little bit later. I'll kind of talk about some of the books that I've already read and the one that I'm currently reading. But one of the main reasons I wanted to get on here and talk to you guys is because I was kind of thinking, yes, again, I was thinking about this channel and what I want to do for it, because I think at this point it's probably time for me to just accept that this channel is not going to be about one particular thing, but instead it's going to be like a constantly evolving organism that changes from, if not week to week, then, you know, month to month or so. Lately, I have been watching quite a few finance vlogs and YouTube channels. In particular, I've been watching Caleb Hammer, not so much Dave Ramsey, but just other YouTubers who tend to cover financial advice, or even just people who are reviewing like really terrible financial advice and credit card debt and stuff like that on TikTok. I don't know why, I've just gone down a bit of a financial rabbit hole. And it kind of got me thinking a little bit about how my personal spending habits and our household spending habits have changed in the face of inflation and rising cost of living. For my husband and I, we both work pretty recession-proof jobs, so we've been very lucky up to the point that we've been able to keep our jobs all through the pandemic and all the different shifting changes and all the layoffs that are happening. But, you know, knock on wood, I obviously hope we don't lose our jobs in the coming months, because I know a lot of people are worried about that, especially going into the holidays. So I'm certainly not here to say that it can't happen to us or that it can't happen to you, because it might, although I hope it doesn't. Have our spending habits changed in the last couple of years? Yes, they have. So right before COVID hit in about 2019, we were dealing with some personal debt, but it wasn't so bad. It wasn't as bad as it was back in like 2016, 2017. So by 2019, we were already starting to get back on track in terms of repaying loans and credit card debt and stuff like that. And we were in a really good place financially compared to previous years, but we still had a long way to go. Then COVID hit, and obviously everything changed. The whole world ground to a halt for a while. And of course, it gave us a bit of a chance to reassess what we were doing career-wise and whether we wanted to continue in our jobs. And for me personally, I ended up changing jobs shortly after the pandemic started, and that's how I got into healthcare, and the rest, of course, is history. And since that time, just with everything having settled down on the pandemic front and everything else, don't come up here, please. She's gonna make the table shake if she comes up here, so I don't really want her on the desk. But anyway, so within the past couple of years, we've really been focusing on our financial future and what kind of long-term goals we have in terms of home ownership, retirement, kids, etc. So I guess that's maybe why I've been really focusing on these financial vlogs, is just because that's where my head is at right now. And of course, I'm not immune to any of the changes that are happening in terms of the cost of living or inflation. And I'm certainly feeling that in my pockets. You know, I'm certainly feeling it at the grocery store, the gas stations, pretty much anywhere else where money has to be spent in order to obtain a service or product. And some stores I almost can't even go into anymore just because the prices are so outrageous that I make myself so angry going in there because I know I'm gonna get ripped off. So there are certain stores now that are on my no shop list, including Loblaws, Shoppers Drug Mart, Metro, Sobeys. I don't set foot in any of those stores now because their products are just way, way, way too expensive. The only exception I will make is if they're having a really, really, really good deal or sale that week, then I will go in for a specific item and then I'll get right back out. The other day, we went to Loblaws and we bought 11 items altogether, and half of those items were not edible. They were like toilet paper, soap, etc. And after purchasing those 11 items, I ended up spending $74 at Loblaws. And that was the moment when I basically said, you know what, forget it, I'm not giving any more of my money to Loblaws. If you've spent any time listening to the news or even on Reddit, you'll know that there's obviously a movement to boycott Loblaws and its partner companies. So as somebody who has done quite a bit of work in Loblaws, I have noticed the downward trend in terms of people coming into the store and buying products or even just sampling products. So I think they're feeling it, and I hope they continue to feel it, because I really don't think that Galen Weston is in touch with the average consumer. So I think sometimes the only way to really make a statement is to not give a company your money, but we'll see how that pans out for them in the long run. If I were to kind of do like a little micro shift or a little pivot into something like that, where I'm talking about managing debt, managing finances, getting the best deal at the grocery store, like this is all just purely pedestrian. It's just anecdotal based on our personal experience. It is not like, I'm not saying this is applicable to everybody, because of course your situation and your circumstances will be different. But it could be useful maybe to see what other people are doing. I do love to cook, so I might also try doing something like some of my favorite budget-friendly meals. I don't know if that's something you guys would be interested in, but if it is, let me know in the comments. And other than that, I guess just keep on doing what I'm doing with this in terms of making it like a writing vlog. I haven't been doing a very good job of talking about writing, but I guess I can do that now. Writing. The thing that I have really not been focusing on at all. I have been working on book 6 whenever I can. I'm trying to make a point of sitting down and writing at least a page. 2 pages, 3 if I'm feeling very prolific that day. I think recently I wrote like 4 pages in 2 hours. I was just really feeling the scene and the characters. I was getting into it. I just felt like, yes, this is what I'm wanting to say. This is what I've been thinking about and planning out, and the scene just worked out better than I could have imagined. So that was great. But those are flukes nowadays. Those are anomalies, because right now I am really not focusing on writing. I'm kind of taking a step back, and I think I am probably just stating the obvious at this point, because as you can tell from my Instagram and obviously this channel here, I haven't really been that active, and I think I'm kind of approaching the point where if I do continue writing, it'll probably be some different form of writing. Maybe I'll go back to writing free verse poetry for a while, or maybe I'll just take a break altogether, because I'm kind of getting a little tired. I'm kind of over it. But I also don't want that feeling of being over it or feeling like this is now something that I no longer want to do. I don't want that to overshadow the progress that I've already made on the story, because I'm actually really enjoying writing this book, and I think it's because I've committed to the idea of writing it for myself. And the fact that I basically set out to write without deadlines, without any sort of social media promotion, like really no expectations whatsoever. I'm not even looking at the book as a product that will eventually be available for people to buy. It is strictly like, okay, so what would have happened if the characters had continued down this path that I had set them on in the first 5 books in the series? Like, what would the next generation of that family look like, kind of thing. The current word count, even though I'm not making the book about word counts, but I mean, I do need to give myself some benchmarks, right? Like some mile markers along the way to track my progress, otherwise it becomes a little bit of a muck to navigate. But word count wise, the first draft is about 39,000, I think, or just under 39,000, so the progress has been pretty good, but it has been slow. Like, it has been a slow and steady trudge at this point. So of course, you know my system. 25k is the point of no return. I'm committed to the idea. 50k is the unofficial halfway point. 75k, that's the home stretch, because by the time I get to 75,000, I only have about 10,000 words left to write, so that's really quite easy when you look back at how many words I've already written. So in the timeline here, we're like, well, I guess it's different for you guys, but we're like here. Okay, so it's like it's been a long journey and it's not even halfway over, but it will, at its own pace and its own time, make it where we're going. I'm probably not going to be running any holiday promotions this year. In the past, I've done things like I made the first book in my series free, or I've done a bundled discount. So basically, if you buy all 5 of my books, you can save like $5 off the list price or something like that. But it's been such a pain in the butt for very little return, I've noticed. So I don't really do that anymore. But my books are still very reasonably priced, like in the US, less than $10 for a paperback. So I think compared to the amount of time I actually spend writing and rewriting and editing and formatting, etc., that is incredibly affordable, I think. Although again, on the heels of what I said earlier about wanting to pivot into talking about finances, it's probably not affordable for everybody, and I completely understand if supporting indie authors is not in your budget now, and I would never hold that against someone. But right now, I think my focus is just going to come off of that completely. I'm just going to continue writing for the fun of it, and just because it's so much a part of my daily routine that taking it out feels a little odd at this point, unless I can kind of put something else in that hole. But guys, I'll always be a writer at heart, but I can't really focus on being an author as a career anymore. It's just not feasible. So I think we're just going to kind of play it by ear. Now, I did promise that I was going to talk about some of the books that I am reading. Right now, I'm only reading one book. And again, it's kind of like the writing. I'm not really reading habitually, regularly. Not happening. And I do feel really bad saying that because I love reading and I love books, but there are still only 24 hours in a day, and I gotta go to work. I have to pay my bills, I have to shop for groceries, I have to do laundry, I have to, get my hair done, I have to go to the dentist and the doctor. Like, I have things that I need to do. So as much as it would be very nice to have that kind of lifestyle and that kind of privilege where I could just kind of kick back and read or write all day, no worries, Hakuna Matata, it's not realistic at this point in my life. But I'll get the book that I've been reading, and I'm just going to talk about it a little bit in terms of like what I love about it and what I'm not so fond of, and we'll just kind of try to cling on to whatever this channel was originally supposed to be about, which was writing. 1 second. Okay, so this is the book I'm reading now, The Entire Sky. Joe Wilkins is the author. I'm not even using a proper bookmark. I'm just using the inside flap of the dust jacket to mark my place. So that really tells you a lot about my current attitude towards writing and reading. But anyway, so I am on chapter 29 now. The chapters are pretty short. Like, when I think of how my chapters play out, usually my books have between 35 and 40 chapters, and they're long, like long chapters. So I think I might be kind of an outlier when it comes to writing novels, because it seems like a lot of authors have many chapters that are very short. Like, I saw one book recently that had like 115 chapters, and the book couldn't have been more than 80,000 words. So like, I don't know, maybe I'm doing this wrong, but whatever. So I am a big fan of stories that take place on ranches or family estates, that kind of thing. And if you look inside the dust jacket here, it just says a poignant story about a troubled boy on the run, an aging rancher, and a woman at a crossroads who find unexpected solace in the family they make. So that kind of gives you a taste of what it's about. It takes place in a place called Delafield, Montana in the 1990s, so around the time that Kurt Cobain died, actually, and that's kind of a major plot point here. Things I love, first of all, I love the author's writing style. He has such an energetic and artistic way of painting the scene. But at the same time, I feel like I am forced to slow down a little bit and really concentrate my senses on what I'm reading. And I appreciate that in a lot of books nowadays. I find that they rush a little bit over the world building and the setting, and they don't necessarily immerse you in the scene to quite this extent. I also really appreciate the author's commitment to the lifestyle. And by commitment to the lifestyle, I mean the way it is portrayed, the accuracies, the history, all that sort of thing. Like, he's not going off of stereotypes here. This is obviously a very well-researched and well-told story. And it's actually been really helpful for me as someone who has also set a book on a ranch to really kind of like fact check and take inventory of what I'm saying and making sure that it's real and true and accurate and that sort of thing. I've noticed that the dialogue is a little different than what I'm used to, although I will say this. So, two things, okay? First of all, let me show you an example of the dialogue here. Okay, so obviously in English, when we have dialogue in text, we have double quotes for direct speech, and then we have single quotes for quoted speech inside direct speech. So if a character is saying, so I talked to so-and-so and they said, you would obviously open that dialogue with double quotes, blah, 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 whatever the main character says, and then whatever they're quoting someone else is saying, that's a single quote, that sort of thing. And that's what I've been used to for my entire life. Now, if you were to look at a book written in French, you'll notice something a little bit different, and that's that they don't necessarily use quotations. They use what they call chevrons, or like the little sideways V's, two of them, and they go like left and right for open and close quotation. But they also use, if I can remember the term for them, they're like the M dashes, like the long hyphens, right? And basically, as you're going down the page and the dialogue is going back and forth between two characters, it's just dash, 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 dash. And I didn't realize that was the conventional way of writing and formatting dialogue until I started translating my own series for my French stepmom. And my dad was showing me examples of some of the books she was reading, and he said, oh, you see, they don't even use quotations. They don't even use chevrons half the time. And I said, well, that's really interesting. So I was beyond surprised to find it here in an English novel. I'll show you what I mean, okay? There we go. I'm not sure how clear it's going to be, so I'm going to try to point it out to you. Alright? Like right here, for instance. Kind of see what I mean with the dashes there? So those are people speaking, characters speaking on the page. And then it kind of goes back and forth between dialogue tags and action tags. So that's new and different, but I'm thinking it'll probably become more mainstream as more and more authors opt for a quicker, more efficient manner of writing. I don't think I will personally switch over to it because this would be an incredibly difficult habit to break at this point in my life, but never say never, right? Now, the thing that I don't like, I find it takes a really long time for the author to make a point sometimes. There have just been a couple of paragraphs here and there that just ran on. They're like run-on sentences, basically. And from a stylistic perspective, the run-on sentence has its place. I've used it, I know other authors use it, but you need to be judicious about it because it is technically an improper writing style. But there have been a couple of places in the story so far where I just sort of felt like, okay, get to the point already because now you're losing me, right? Like the author will start describing something and then she'll just kind of go off on a tangent and describe the history of that thing and just kind of go deeper and deeper and deeper into it, where I don't feel like it's actually serving the scene or the story at all. But so far that's been my only complaint, and that's really just a personal thing because I feel like I think it's an old habit that's been instilled in me for years, where I was always taught that paragraphs shouldn't be more than like a long paragraph shouldn't be more than 5 or 6 sentences. So I think that might just be my own shortcoming and my own blind spot as a writer. And obviously, I feel like I've said obviously about 500 times in this video. I'm sorry guys, I don't know what's going on. I think that's just my thing tonight. Altogether, I'm loving the book. I'm not really getting enough of a chance to really immerse myself in it and read it as closely or as intimately as I would like to, but when I do get a chance to sit down and read it, it's a joy every time. Now I'm going to talk about another book that I read, and I devoured this book in about 2 weeks. And I'm going to talk about a couple other things that are just kind of pertinent to what's going on in the world right now. So give me 1 second to go get it, and then we will continue on. Alright, this is the other book that I have read recently called Mad Honey by one of my favorite authors, Jodi Picoult. I absolutely love Jodi's style. I have been a fan of hers for years and years and years, and in fact I think I have 3 of her books on my Amazon wish list. So I'm sorry to whoever is shopping for me this year. You're gonna be spending a lot of money. So this particular book, it is about trans rights. It is about the justice system, as so many of her books often tend to be. It is about domestic violence and single motherhood. It's about mothers and sons and interracial relationships and how we perceive certain people in society versus other people, and what we believe about people based on what they tell us and what other people tell us about them, that kind of thing. So it's obviously a very richly textured story. I'm gonna try to keep my hands down here because when I get passionate, I'm like, hey, hands gotta be involved. It's the Italian in me, I'm sorry. Spoiler alert, okay, spoilers from here on out because I'm gonna be talking about some of the key themes in this book. But when I discovered that the main character is a trans girl, I was a little uncomfortable. I have opinions about certain things and that I will not share here, especially in the current political climate and in light of Trump's victory. So I'm not touching politics at all right now. But for the most part, I really enjoyed the book. I love her writing style. I find it very accessible and it's very immediate and it's very prescient as well. So that's obviously all in the pros column. The cons column, I think, is not related to her book specifically, or any of the books that she's written. I think sometimes, I feel like, okay, I'm gonna try to get this out in a way that is not inflammatory in any way. I'm finding nowadays, and I do it too, as a writer, I try to be conscious of when I'm doing it. And sometimes I do it intentionally and sometimes it is completely subconscious. A lot of books I'm reading nowadays, they focus less on the story and more on social justice. I might catch some hate for saying this, and especially because I feel like I am being hypocritical, because the book that I am writing, the 6th book in my series, not yet titled, it's political too. And it takes a stand on an issue that I have felt very strongly about for a number of years, which is how we treat wild horses in Canada and the United States, and how we view them as pests, and how we generally treat anything that interferes with greed, with our personal and professional pursuits. Jodi Picoult even said recently, everything is political. All writing is political. And I agree with that. And I think I've been having a bit of a hard time, both as a reader and a writer, separating or disentangling the politics from the story. And I think in a way that's good, because all good stories need to have some sort of conflict. They need to have some sort of driving force, some propulsion, right? But throughout the story, there's a lot of discussion about beekeeping, the history of honey, bee colonization, that sort of thing, which is very cool. I think bees are awesome. I love bees. But Mad Honey was basically honey that was toxic honey. It's honey that is created from the pollen of a very particular plant that is known to be toxic. And when the bees turn that pollen into honey, and that honey is consumed, it drives whoever eats the honey into madness. And it causes them to hallucinate and see things and stuff like that. But it just tastes so sweet and so rich, so it's very deceptive. And once you realize that it's not honey and it's not good for you, it's already done its damage in the body. And so of course, that just feeds into everything that's going on with the characters and the legal quandary they find themselves in. So Mad Honey, definitely 10 out of 10. The Entire Sky, right now I'm only halfway through. Not even halfway through. Like, okay, 40% of the way through. Recommendation level, 8.5 out of 10. And I would really only recommend it to someone who actually loves reading about all the intricacies of like running a ranch and the history of the state of Montana, because it's like super heavy on the details. So if you're not into the history, I don't know if you'll get into this, but we'll see. I think I'm gonna wrap it up here and go make dinner, and yeah, I kind of call it a night on this video, but I hope you had a good chat here with me. Well, I had a good chat with you. I hope you had a good listen to me yammering on as I always do. But anyway, like I said, bear in mind that I'm probably going to be dropping some videos that have nothing to do with writing, reading, travel, because you're kind of looking at this weird little Rubik's Cube of a YouTube channel, and I apologize if the colors are constantly shifting. Anyway, guys, I hope you're having a great night, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.